All right, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of the MakeCode Arcade Advanced stream. I'm Richard, at Richard on the forum.
I'm Daryl, at Darzu on the forum.
I'm Joey, at JWonderl on the forum.
I'm Shannon, at Shakao on the forum.
And I'm Vivian, at Live Cheerful on the forum.
Cool, and you know what this means. We did not come up with a plan for the stream today. So we're going to be using our game idea generator, which is something that we built in our 10th stream. You can go back and watch us make it if you want. But basically this just generates an idea for a game. For example, if I were to press A few times, we could make a comedic farming game set in the future featuring break things. So the first thing is kind of the genre, is an adjective. The second one is the genre. The third one is the location. And the fourth one is just a random kind of wild card mechanic. And you guys are keeping track of these, right? Because I'm not writing them down.
Sure.
All right. We're going to keep going until we find one that we like. So yeah, let's go. All right. Make a relaxing survival game set in an island featuring dessert. I like this one.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
You have survival like just down, and you're at the point where you're just kind of making desserts.
That could be. Oh, okay. I'm just thinking of just like island time, you know? Like it's a survival game, but it's pretty chill. And you know, you just got to get some coconuts, make some nice drinks, things like that.
The island provides.
All right, let's keep going, but this is a strong contender in my opinion. All right, make a slow motion adventure set in a beach. We have beach and island. All right, featuring a moral dilemma. That's interesting. All right, we're gonna do
moral
two more.
dilemma new? I don't remember this before.
I think we added in the last round of us adding things to this. Okay, make a first-person narrative set in school. Must include monkeys.
A lot of these are been done a lot.
All right, one more, and then we're going to choose. Shakespearean, educational, space, defend. We should like go through these and like unify the tense so that this reads a little bit better. All right. Well, I don't know how you guys feel, but my vote is for relaxing survival island.
It's beautiful. I like that it's a deserted island.
Yeah. No, that's where I went to.
Love.
Okay. So let's go ahead and start a new project, and I'm going to add our prompt in a comment real quick. So we are making a relaxing
Okay, we don't have game mechanics yet, but I think it should start with you hanging out in like a life ring on the ocean before you like wash up on the beach of the island.
Okay. Strong. I like that.
Should the life ring be a donut? Question mark?
No. I think dessert should be something you prepare on the island. But we just spent a long time doing a game where desserts are things that they are not. So I just want to have classic dessert in this one.
Maybe you're hanging out in the life ring with a little snack.
Sure. Yeah, that's an option. All right. I'm going to go ahead and just start doing some tile map stuff. And I think I'm going to make this a side scroller. So this will be fun. This is a wave. A bad one. All right, let's give that a second shot.
Did you have a mechanic in mind then?
So no, I'm just gonna kind of make a little island tile map, and then I figure we can do something on top of that. So you guys should keep talking.
Hmm.
Okay, so if it's a side scroller, we could do the classic collecting things. We could do like you have a dessert recipe in mind. This is just not turning out. Let me do the this is what I get for trying to do something fancy that I haven't done before. I'm just gonna do the classic squiggle waves. So we could be going around looking for like a coconut, and you know, other stuff like that. I don't know. What do you guys think? What are some island things?
Sand.
Thank you.
Wait, are all islands beach, or are there some islands that are different kinds of
Yeah,
things?
like rock islands.
Yeah, or they're like jungle islands? Are we limiting ourselves to one
Okay,
kind
okay, okay. All right. You guys, I have to draw it. So
You might have been to a jungle before, Richard. I don't know where you've been.
that's fair.
We have excellent, monkey and snake. Maybe those should make an appearance. Don't
We
have
could
to
do
draw those.
I like drawing stuff. All right. Can I get some mechanics pitches?
Maybe
Anyone?
somebody stole your dessert. Something to do with sand desserts.
Ooh, like a sand castle sort of thing, but
Yeah.
Sand dessert contest?
Or what about like you don't have an oven on the island, so you have to use a magnifying glass to reflect the sunlight to bake your dessert.
I like the idea of like you have to draw in the sand, or like you leave a trail where you go, and that like is, I don't know.
That was my favorite thing to do in the sand, is have a stick behind me, walk around.
Okay. So we could do
We
that.
have suggestions in the comments. A monkey stole your dessert and you have to get it back, or make a new one with certain things you find on the island. So then we have to think of more island things.
Okay, I like that.
Okay, so islands. You got lots of shells.
Palm trees. Got palm trees.
Random
I've
FedEx packages.
Volleyballs.
Bananas is in the comments.
It's true. These are all island things.
Sunshine. Water. Salt. You got lots of salt. A key ingredient for many desserts.
Okay. So we've got some ideas. So let's go ahead and I think start doing a little bit of coding once I'm done with this island map. I think that what I'm going to do, the ones that I found interesting, I guess, even though they are kind of games we've done before, are making something that's kind of based off of finding ingredients and putting them together, or constructing fake ingredients for a fake dessert. Like you're so, lost at sea that you're now hallucinating that sand is a good ingredient.
It adds texture.
It does do that. I don't know. What would that game look like, do you think? Or is it too close to two games we've done on stream before?
It might be funny. I know we're not doing comical game, but like to have stupid island replacements for typical baking things.
Yeah, maybe the challenge is you have to figure out the replacement. Like you give a recipe that's like a bunch of things, and then there's like many things on the island, and you have to figure out which one, or like you get rated at the end based on how good your replacement strategy is.
I like it. I like that. I especially like the idea of being like, a coconut is kind of like an egg.
No, exactly. You get points for it being round and points for it being white on the inside.
And filled with stuff, like liquidy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, a coconut basically is an egg.
I'm having a hard time remembering the difference between coconuts and eggs right now. You crack both of them.
Which one do you make an omelet with?
I mean, that's like one of the toughest, I think, first exams that you get in cooking school is just telling the difference between the ingredients, you know? A lot of people drop out.
What were you saying, Shannon?
No, nothing important.
Okay.
I'm almost done with my tile map, by the way.
The chat says we can also have things underwater. For the
Yes, I'm very excited about this.
Really good, yeah.
Ooh.
A dolphin could help you find things underwater for the new recipe.
When you go underwater, you can put on scuba gear.
There's definitely going to be water stuff because I didn't draw enough island. Do. Almost done.
I also like having holes on beaches / islands. I've never been to an island before, so don't have much.
Okay, that
information on
cannot possibly be true.
Yeah.
Where are islands?
I mean, the
I grew
continent's
up-
kind of like a big island.
In corn.
You've never gone to like Bainbridge Island or something?
I've never been to Bainbridge Island.
There's like islands in the Great Lakes though, right? Like Mackinac Island is near Michigan. Is that?
I've been to Sleeping Bear, and there's the bears off in the distance that are dunes. I don't know if those are islands.
Is it a dune surrounded by water?
From my perspective, I don't remember if the other side is connected to me or not.
Mm-hmm.
I think no, because I think we drove to it so then we could climb the bears.
Ah.
No,
Shouldn't climb bears. PSA. Okay, all right. This looks bad, but this is what we're getting. And I'm going to put a coconut on this tree. Ooh. All right. So what if we had various things that you could kind of get in the water, and your character is going to be a little guy, just to make it to scale. So let's go ahead and draw that real quick. I think that I'm going to go 8 by 8, and then we're going to do a nice and simple. And then we'll give him some hair. And an eye. 2 eyes. Asymmetrical haircut.
Oh, okay. I was thinking it was a mohawk.
Wouldn't a mohawk just be down the middle?
Well, because the eye on the side was looking to the side.
Oh, I see.
All right.
Ooh, you got
Let's
some
make it something that contrasts a little bit better.
appreciation in chat, Richard. Somebody says your art is really good.
I don't know about that, but thank you. And let's do green here. Yeah, nice.
The eggplant.
Shannon, don't hate.
No, it's a compliment.
Okay. With you cannot tell.
All right. So I'm doing our normal just kind of setup code. So we have our person. We are moving with buttons, and we're setting camera follow sprite. So we can just kind of, move around, which is cool. Real quick, I'm going to go ahead and define some walls on this tile map. So let's go ahead and turn on wall mode. Oh, whoops. Turn on wall mode, and then just mark all this ground as wall. Cool. And I'm thinking that when we go out into water, I'm going to change the sprite to be a little swimming sprite.
I bring.
So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an on-game update. And we're going to do if is hitting wall bottom. We'll set this image. This is going to be a little weird, but hopefully it'll come across. Otherwise, we will assume that we're in water, and I'm going to draw a nice little water guy. Like this, and put some. Oh, this should be a little life ring, huh?
Yes. Yes.
Do. This doesn't work super well, but you get the idea.
It looks so cute.
Okay. Let's go ahead and put some things out in the water. So I want you guys to call out oceany things that would be floating around in the water, and I will draw them. And then we're going to spawn them on random tiles, and these are going to be our ingredients. So let's go ahead and make a function, and it's going to be called MakeIngredient. And it's going to take in a string, which is the type of ingredient, I think. All right, first ingredient.
The seaweed.
Okay, I heard seaweed. I did not hear what Daryl said.
Block of ice.
A block of ice. I don't think Daryl's ever been to it. I don't think Daryl's ever been to an island either.
Hey, the icebergs are falling apart. You gotta go somewhere. Well, so the thing is, we need to be able to cool down some of the desserts, right? Like not everything works when it's really warm.
Yeah.
All right.
Ooh, I would love to see a sea otter.
Okay, but these are
Use
ingredients.
No, they
These are
can help.
ingredients we're doing.
We probably don't want to put a sea otter in their ingredient. You are right.
Sea otters hold rocks. We can steal their rocks.
Yeah, that's what we would take from a sea otter.
Kelp's just going to be some green squiggles. There we go. All right, next.
Jellyfish.
Okay.
Bird jelly. Cute.
Oh, what color jellyfish are you thinking?
Pink or purple?
Our character is purple. Normally,
Oh, yeah.
I would do purple, but all right.
Pink and white.
Let's do pink. Going to create a circle and then chop off the bottom half. And I'm going to give it some spots like a sea mushroom. Now, just some tentacles.
now it works for both jelly and mushroom. That's efficient.
My favorite baked goods have mushroom in them.
Ooh.
All right. So this one is Jellyfish. All right, let's do one more, and then we'll start doing some coding.
Let's see. Ooh, I do like the Driftwood. Can use that to replace chocolate or something.
I don't think we're going purely based off color.
No, it's like also roughly like chocolate bar shaped. That one was from the audience too, Driftwood. Not the chocolate part. I made that up. I'm not going to blame them for that.
Driftwood could also be used as a flower replacement.
Ooh.
I don't know.
You could do just one big log with like stripes on it.
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, that was. I just undid it into a jellyfish. Undid it into a jellyfish. All right, make a rectangle.
Nice.
And cool. All right. So I think we should just kind of make these guys just float in from the side and then just kind of, move around a bit. Does that sound all right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and just create one ingredient for now. And I'm going to rename this to the new ingredient. It's always good to change my sprite because it's the default thing. And so sometimes you'll make mistakes by leaving it selected, but it'll not give you an error because you're using it somewhere else. So you should always rename it. Okay. And now I'm thinking that maybe we place the ingredient like at the edge of the screen, and then we're going to have it just kind of drift towards the island. And I don't have a super good way to do that right now. So if anyone has suggestions, I'm going to add the tile maps extension because I think I'm going to need that. PXT tile maps. PXT tile map.
Do it at
Microsoft /PXT tile maps.
It's not a...
There we go. So to add that, simply type Microsoft /PXT tile maps, and then you get this nifty tile map category. The tile map thing is nice because it lets you do a lot more things on top of tile maps. But the thing that I really wanted here was I wanted to get the total rows and the total columns so that I could kind of place it at the edge of the screen. So I'm going to get an on-game update interval block, and let's make it just like 1 second for now. And I'm going to, every second, I'm going to try and create something at the edge of the screen, and then we're going to add code to make it so that it kind of drifts slowly towards the island. All right. So we want to place it on a, I think we're going to have one of 4 directions, right? Because we can either do it up, down, left, or right. So I'm going to drag out a pick random block. And I'm going to set this as spawn side. So there are 4 options here. So we want to do pick random from 0 to 3. And that's because 0 is included. So 0, 1, 2, 3 is our 4 options. And now let's just kind of figure out which one we got. So when you're doing something like this, I'm always tempted first to just use the % chance and repeat it over and over again. But that's actually not very good, because whatever's at the top will have a much more likely chance of happening than whatever's at the bottom. If you have a bunch of options that you need to choose from, you should use a pick random block, because then you can give them all an equal opportunity. Okay. All right. So what we want to do now is I think we want to spawn a random ingredient. And so instead of doing this dumb thing I was doing before of switching over the name, I think instead we're going to take in a number just to make this a little bit easier. So I'm going to get rid of that argument, and I'm going to add a new argument that's going to be called ingredient index. Seems fine. And instead of checking this ingredient name, we're going to do something kind of like this, where we compare it against a number. And this will make it so that we can just put in a math random range and choose a random one instead of having to like choose from a random list of strings, which is a bit tougher to do. So 0, 1, 2. And the other thing we want to do is we want to return this ingredient at the end. So I'm going to go into functions. This is a new feature, by the way, that we just released last week. And I'm going to put in the new ingredient for the return value. Now that I've done that, if I go back to functions, there's a round version of this block, so I can get the return value. All right. So I'm going to reuse my new ingredient variable and do this. I'm going to pick a random value between 0 and 2 because we have 3 possible things right now. Yeah, all right, it's not angry. And cool, we can see my ingredients already being created. But right now they're all just being created on the top, the center of the screen, which is on top of the player. So let's go ahead and start placing our ingredient at the right column and row. I always zoom in too much when I think to zoom in. Okay, so we're going to go into the scene category and grab out a place my sprite on top of location. And let's go ahead and change this to be new ingredient. And I'm going to use another random range block. So when spawn side is 0, that's going to be the top of the screen for us. We're just going to do it in compass order. So top, right, bottom, left. So for 0, we want the top. And that means that the row is going to be 0. The column, though, can be anything from the left of the screen to the right of the screen. So we want to make sure that we cover all of those possibilities. And to do that, we're going to pick from random from 0 to total tile map columns, which is a block we get from the tile maps extension. And actually, we want to do that -1. All right, and the rest of these are going to look pretty similar. So first, let's do the bottom. So the bottom is going to be 2. We keep this column row because that looks right. And what we're going to do is, for the row, we want to do the total tile map rows -1. Here it is. All right, and now let's go ahead and do 1. So 1 is going to be the right side of the screen. So in this case, we want the the column, which is the X side of things, to be the total tile map columns -1, so all the way to the right. And the row is going to be the random thing here. So let's set it between row 0, and instead of tile map columns, we want tile map rows. And so that should work. And now we do the last one, which is going to be 0, and then this random thing. And let's see how that worked. So got Kelp, Jellyfish up there. Okay, there's a log over here. See if we get something along the bottom. Cool. we've got lots of ingredients coming in. Now we want to make them start drifting towards the island. And to do that, I'm going to do a little trigonometry, but I promise to keep it as
Could you
minimal.
do a follow?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
real slow?
yeah, let's do that. So to do a follow, which is going to make this a lot easier and take away the trig, I'm going to create a fake sprite that's going to be the target, and I'm going to put it on top of our tree. So I'm going to call this one drift target. And yep, I'm just going to leave this as a transparent sprite. I'm also going to set some flags on it just to make it so that it doesn't do anything weird with the tile map. So I'm going to set drift target ghost to be true, and also invisible. I always do that when I'm using temporary sprites so that, I don't mess up. And now let's go ahead and put it at the right location. So we're going to call a place on top of random, and we know exactly what this is going to place on top of because we only have one of these tree tiles in our game. And now, with our new ingredient, we can, at the end of this function, use the follow block. So I'm going to change this my enemy to be the new ingredient, and we want it to follow our drift target. And this speed's going to be way too high, so let's make it really low, like 5. There we go. I think that's still too high, though. I'm going to make it like 1.
The ocean is big, so it does things slowly.
True. Cool. Yeah. All right. So they're drifting in now.
Maybe it should be like slightly random, like between 1 and 3.
You think so? I just feel like it's the map's not big enough for it to.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I think it looks good as is too.
Does this take? Can I put in like 0.25?
That should be fine. Yeah. It'll just be really slow.
Oh yeah, they're moving, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes, they are moving. Okay. Well, since I can do that, I will make it random. So let's do a random range. And we're going to do from, let's say, 0 to 4. But we're going to divide 2 by this number. And, sorry, this needs to be 1.
That would be...
Yeah. And so now we should be getting anything from 2 pixels per second to 0.5. So, yeah, that looks all right. All right, cool. Eventually, I'm going to make this a much longer spawn interval because we're getting a lot of ingredients right now. But I think this is kind of good for now. Okay, let's start making up some recipes, I think. So my idea is we're going to have a bunch of potential recipes that you can make. And I think maybe we'll even make them appear on the screen as a little checklist, but with the real ingredients. And then when you get something that matches the real ingredient, it'll get checked off.
Nice.
Okay. So, someone who knows how to bake things, please give me a dessert and the ingredients for it.
Chocolate mousse has chocolate and eggs, maybe a little bit. I don't think it has flour in it. Is it just chocolate and eggs?
You guys have access to the internet, and it's many wonders.
I don't think it's just throwing eggs on chocolate and baking it. That would be very pleasant.
You beat up the eggs. Chocolate mousse.
All right, Shannon, give me a dessert.
I'm stealing from the chat. Brownies.
All right, and
Eggs, flour, chocolate.
Is there flour in brownies?
I don't bake.
Guys,
If you
Google.
put-
We got.
If you
Sorry,
put less
dang,
flour
dang it.
in it, it turns more fudgy. If you put more, it's more cakey.
Okay.
Whoa.
All right. We'll do these ones for now. But while I'm coding, you guys should be looking up more ingredients and things that use like jelly and kelp and stuff. All right.
Yeah.
You can make a jelly roll.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and add another extension here. And this extension is going to be one that Daryl wrote. And it's not test, Darzu/arcade text. And this lets you add text sprites, which are nice. It'll let us make some kind of labels that we can use to make our little checklist. So let's go ahead and make a new function. And this function is going to be create recipe. And it's not going to take any arguments because I want to use an array. All right, so I'm just going to set this to a test value for now. And then we can kind of add some code to actually make some recipes at the end. But for now, I just want it to be an array of strings. And I'm going to put in the ones for our brownie recipe. So it's going to be egg, chocolate, milk, flour. And I'm going to loop over all of these and create text sprites for each of them. So let's do that. I'm going to be using a for index because I want to be able to know which one I'm on. And the reason why will become apparent in a sec. But usually when we're looping over an array, we use a for of. Sometimes it's nice to use a for index. And so for the upper bound for this is inclusive. So if I were to run this right now, this loop would execute 5 times. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If we want it to do something for every element in the array, that means we want to subtract a 1 from it because it's also going to include our upper bound. So let's go ahead and do the length of the array -1 and change this to current recipe parts. All right, and now for each of these, we're going to create a text sprite. I'm going to go into our array and get a get value at, put it right here, just the current recipe parts. And for that, we're going to do the index. And to test my code, let's go ahead and call this function now. So I'm going to put it at the bottom of onStart. All right. They're huge. That's because by default, by default, the text sprite uses the maximum font size. I'm going to make it a little bit lower, though, and just use 8. Cool. All right, we don't want them to be all overlapping on top of each other, because right now it looks like we're supposed to get bloblet. Bloblet, which is not true. That's not what we want. So this is why I wanted to use this index, because what I'm going to do is for each of these, I'm going to set their top to be this index times a value, and this will let us space them out. So our font height is 8 characters, but I want to give a little bit of space between the characters. So I'm going to multiply it by, let's say, 9, and we'll see how that works. Cool. Egg, chocolate, milk, flour. All right. There's a problem, though, and that is that right now this moves around with the camera. That's not what we want. We want this to just kind of be stuck on the screen. And luckily, there's a great flag for doing that inside of sprites. So I'm going to go into text sprite. I'm going to go and choose the relative to camera. And Joey, can you give a brief explanation of what relative to camera does?
Yeah, so normally when you're making your sprite's position and all that sort of stuff, it's relative to like the entire game. So 0, 0 is the top left of the whole world, and 160 by 120 is the bottom right of the screen, but not necessarily the bottom right of the world if there's a big tile map or something like that. What relative to camera does is just say, ignore the whole world, just put it straight onto the camera. Just put it 0, 0 is the top left no matter what.
Yep. So if you imagine, this is like a piece of text that is stuck to the camera lens. All right, so I'm going to set the left to be, let's say, 10. And that's because I'm also going to be adding an icon for all of these. So one of the cool things about this text sprite extension is that there's also this set icon. And what I'm going to do here is put in an icon that will be a checkbox that is not checked. Should probably be white, huh? Okay. I think we need a little bit of padding. That's in here somewhere, right? Oh, here we go.
You can make the icon just a little wider.
Yeah, just add some weight.
All right. I hope you're writing down this feedback, Daryl. There we go. Okay. So we've got our recipe up here. I want to also, though, add a title. So this is going to be like the name of the recipe. And for that, I'm going to edit my function, and I'm going to add a text argument, which is going to be recipe name. And what we're going to do is we're going to create another text sprite that's at the top of this. Oh, whoops. Do that. And this one will be the recipe title. So get rid of this. We just want this to be the recipe name. We want to set the max font height just like before. And we're also going to set all of these same flags. If I wasn't pressed for time, I would refactor this into a function. But not today. And I'm also going to make it so the top gets added something to it so that we have a little bit of room to put it. So we're going to give us like 12 pixels off of the top to put the title. And hey, it actually shows up in what looks like a pretty good place, huh? That
I'm
ABC,
nodding.
by the way.
I forgot you can't see us.
Yes, I cannot see you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and make this brownies. Cool. And yeah, all right. So I think this is kind of a good start. One thing that I'm realizing right now is that I'm also going to have to store all of these text sprites in an array. And so I'm going to create an array, and it's going to be called recipe text sprites. And the reason that I'm doing this is so that when I get one of these ingredients, I want to have the text sprite, and I want to change its icon to this box, but filled with an X, so that we know that we've picked it up. So at the top of this function, we're going to set this to be an empty array. And we are going to call add value to end. We're going to add text sprite. We don't need to do this for the title because we don't need to check that one off. Okay. Cool. So we've got our thing that creates our little recipe list. Let's go ahead and make another function. And this function is going to be called start recipe. And I think that you're always going to get the same recipes in the same order. And the goal of the game is going to be to finish all of them. So I'm going to do start recipes, and it's going to take in a recipe index. And our first recipe is going to be brownies. So let me go ahead and bring out an if statement. I get an equals. And what we want to do is we want to set the current recipe parts. So I said that I was putting this in here for testing before, and this is what I meant. I'm going to take this out and put it in here. Ideally, I would be able to put this as an argument for my function, but if we look at functions real quick, the only types of arguments you can have are text, Boolean, number, sprite, and image. So you can't have an array of text. And that's okay. I can work around it with this, but that's why I'm doing this way. And we're going to call create recipe with the name of the recipe. So brownies. And I'm going to make a new variable, which is going to be called recipe index. And this is going to start out as 0. And we're going to go ahead and start the first recipe. So call start recipes with our get recipe index. All right. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make it so that when we actually pick up something that looks like the ingredient, it gets checked off on our list. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to create, well, first I'm going to add another extension. And this one is called Arcade Sprite Data. If you've watched our stream before, you've probably seen us use this. It adds more blocks to the sprite category that you can use to store things on the sprite. In this case, I want to store the name of our ingredient so that I can go back and reference it later. So I'm going to drag this one out. I'm going to change this argument to be new ingredient. I'm going to change the data to name, and the string is going to be kelp. Let's do the same thing for jellyfish. Driftwood. All right. And now what I'm thinking is we're going to have an overlap event between the player and things of kind ingredient, because we have this right here. Then I can loop over all of the ingredients and check the name and see if it's on the like list of ingredients that will basically work for that as a replacement. So first off, let's go ahead and add a an on overlap event. First one, we're just going to leave as player. For the second one, we want to add this as ingredient. Also, I just realized that I did something dumb earlier. I didn't think this would come back to bite me, but now it is. The drift target is of kind player. I'm going to go ahead and give it its own kind so that it doesn't also fire this event. I don't think this would actually happen because I'm setting ghost to be true, but it's better. And I feel like it'll come back to bite me if I don't change that now. Okay. So I'm going to make a function now, and I think it's going to be called check substitution. Substitution. Yes. It's going to take in 2 arguments. The first one is going to be actual ingredient. The second one is going to be found ingredient. And this is going to be another function that's going to use our nice little return values. All right. So let's go ahead and start mapping our substitutions. So I think the only one we have so far is that Driftwood would work for chocolate.
I was nodding because I couldn't hear. I forgot you couldn't see, but yes, I agree.
You
Can
got
you
it.
milk jellyfish? Are those one of the animals that have milk?
No, I do not believe you can.
Okay, never mind then.
I believe that would make them mammals.
But are there things that have milk that are suspicious, like coconuts?
That is suspicious. Yeah, you just crack it open and
Milk.
it's coconut milk.
Almond milk.
And egg.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so basically this function is just going to look a lot like this. I could do this with a bunch of ors, but because it's much easier to do a bunch of if statements in blocks, I'm just going to be comparing the actual ingredient and the found ingredient and then returning true if this case evaluates to be true. And this is going to be returned true if this is a good substitution. And because all code paths need to return a value, at the very bottom of this function, I'm going to put return false, because that means we went through all of our checks and didn't find one that works. All right. So if the actual ingredient equals chocolate and the found ingredient equals driftwood, yes, I did mess up the capitalization, then we return true. And now we're going to write the code to check this ingredient off of our list. So we have a, we're going to need another for loop. And actually, I'm just going to duplicate this one because it's going to be the same. So when sprite of kind player overlaps other sprite of kind ingredient, the first thing we want to do is destroy the ingredient. And so I'm going to drag out this other sprite and put it in here. And this is to make it so that we don't have multiple overlap events. And since we're spawning things, I feel like if you pick one up and it's not valid, that's okay. You know, we can go back and you can just find another one. So you saw I hit those logs and they disappeared. So this looks like this code is working. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop over our current ingredient parts and compare them against the name from this other sprite. So I'm going to go back up to my other function and copy another thing, which is this get value at index. And do a logic. Grab out our function, this check substitution. And the first ingredient is the actual ingredient. So we want to put this one as our first ingredient. For the second ingredient, we want that to be the name that we get from our other sprite. So I'm going to go into the sprites category and drag out the right data block. So that'll be right here. It should be other sprite. And I believe I called it name. So you don't remember if that's right?
Sounds right.
All right. So I'm going to move this destroy actually in here. And now it'll only get destroyed if this is something that appears on our list. So if I go ahead and find something that's not on the list, like kelp, see, it does not get destroyed. Neither does this jellyfish. But if I go to a driftwood, it should get destroyed. Yeah, cool. So this code is working. Neat-o. And we also want to check it off our list. So because we have this index, and we made that other array that was all of our text sprites, we can just check the same index as the current recipe part. And they should match because we made the array we made the array when we looped over this the first time. So I'm going to go into text sprite and get the set icon. Change this to list get value at. It's going to be current recipe text sprites. Get value at index. And let me copy the image from what I did before. And I'm just going to put a red X in here. All right. So we're kind of out of time now. I think, though, we could probably do this game tomorrow if people are down for it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like desserts. I know so many desserts.
It sounds like a
Okay.
fun one because we get to just draw a bunch of little random things. I like that idea.
All right. So let's go ahead and plan this to be our game tomorrow, and we'll also do a fun little stream where everyone's going to submit art again, like we did that one time when we was coding.
Ooh, yeah.
And then I'll put them all together, and we can make this game look a lot better than it does right now, even though I do like the little guy and his little life preserver. So thanks so much for tuning in. I know there was a lot of stuff up front, but I hope you got something out of this stream. And I'm Richard, at Richard on the forums.
And I'm Daryl, at Darzu on the forums.
I'm Joey, at jwanderl on the forums.
I'm Shannon, at Shakao on the forums.
And I'm Vivian. I live cheerful on the forums.
Look how ominous this is.
I was thinking it's kind of like a zombie game, to be honest, but
No.
I like it a lot better when it's ingredients.
Oh man, the little life preserver
Art
looks so
is
good
so
full screen.
I like the art in this game.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everybody.
Bye.